Hey everyone! Welcome to another episode of Conversations with me, Carly, and it's another guest interview today that I always say I'm excited, but this is genuinely something really exciting, something very different, and it's something I'm going to introduce. So it's actually more of a random conversation with Carly today because it's not with a woman in business, it's not a female entrepreneur, it's not with a coach or an author. It is with somebody absolutely extraordinary, but actually it's a childhood friend of mine, and she's just amazing. I won't say too much about it, but her latest attempt was rowing solo across the Atlantic, and that just gives you a snippet of the sheer mindset and determination of this incredible woman. So I'm talking to Emma Wolstenholme, and I'm going to go straight across to her now, introduce, have a little chat, and yeah, just I'll let Emma tell you all about her amazing achievements. But what I really want to do is just get into that mindset that really is linked to entrepreneurism, that determination, that grit, that bravery that we all, I guess, sign up to when we go into this world of entrepreneurism. So let me go across and let Emma in, and we will say hello. Oh, hello.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you, Emma?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. Really good.
Where are you in the? Well, I say in the world today, but I'm assuming in the UK. But where in the UK are you today?
I'm in my house in Norfolk. Um, yeah, I've kind of been painting it because I'm selling it.
Oh, well, beautiful. Oh, gorgeous. Norfolk. Because you're in Norfolk and you're in, I'm getting this right, is it Portsmouth as well?
Yeah, exactly. A place called Thorney Island. It's an army camp actually called Baker Barracks, because
Oh,
my partner's in the military, so been down there
yeah,
quite a lot, and it's great to do what I do because it's right next to the water.
exactly. Which we'll get onto in a minute. We've got so much to talk about here. And I was just introducing you. I was saying it's something completely different this because normally I do speak to women in business. It's very much about entrepreneurship. I'll say I'm going to introduce this more of like a random conversation, but with really inspirational women. And I don't know if you will take that title quite happily,
Thank
but
you.
yeah, and you are, and we'll talk about this in a moment. But let's just chat first of all about yeah what you do and what you've been up to leading up to this big challenge that we're going to talk about.
What, the future one or the one that I've just done?
Oh, like, we'll talk about both. We'll start with the one you've just done, and then we'll go into the future one. But yeah, let's just chat a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. Okay. So I was an air cadet when I was younger, and then I ended up joining the Air Force. And then when I left the Air Force 2.5 years ago, I decided um, I was going to do a big challenge, and I ended up uh, planning and planning to row solo across the Atlantic, leaving from Tenerife and ending up in Barbados. But as you know, it didn't all go quite according to plan.
No, wow. Yeah, we'll get onto this, but yeah, well, this is it. So, I mean, so many things you've done. We caught up, didn't we? I was saying then that we're sort of childhood friends and we reconnected last year when you were sort of
Mm.
embarking on this challenge. You happened to be in the Lake District, so we met up for a coffee. And that's when it's like, I have to get you on this podcast. I knew at that moment, I was like, whichever way this challenge goes, it is just amazing the whole buzz around it. And it was quite a buzz, wasn't it? You got to meet Princess Catherine, I believe.
Yes, I did. Yeah, she was up there in Windermere. So she is actually the patron of the RAF Air Cadets. And I
Yeah.
think because the Air Cadets gave me so much, that's why I wanted to raise the money for the cadets. And now they've actually made me their honorary ambassador. I raised £92,000 for them in the end. I know
Wow.
it's a little bit mad, but I got to meet Princess Kate in the process. She was absolutely lovely. Yeah, really
Was
lovely.
she? Did she ask you all about it? Was she asking about the challenge?
Yeah, we were talking about the challenge, and also we were talking about an expedition that I'd just been on. I sailed as an all-female crew from Iceland to Greenland. We made a documentary on climate change, and we were
Oh,
looking at plastic pollution, sound pollution, something similar to what I'm about to go into
yeah.
as my next trip. But we made a documentary, and it was shown at COP26 up in Glasgow.
Oh,
And so I was talking to her about that as well, and of course with Williams project, the Earthshot project, where they give a good amount, a big grant of money to people who have like they have projects that they want to develop that are pro-environment, sustainable projects.
yeah.
So yeah, she was really interested to hear all of that.
Wow. Oh, I love it. I didn't know about that with the documentary as well. Is that somewhere we can view that? Is it or is it just was it just for
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
event?
think it's online. I'll send you the YouTube link.
Yeah.
I mean, the scenery is spectacular. We've got one of the girls on board. She's a marine biologist and she does underwater photography. So she actually had me swimming around an iceberg in a swimming costume, which was quite cold,
I love it.
as you do. She was in a full tilt dry suit, but she had a drone, and the
Oh,
scenery above the glacier was just spectacular.
oh
Yeah.
wow. Oh, and do you know what? This is what I remember from us meeting up last year because there's so many things I was just like, oh, I would love to do all this, all these things that you've done. But I guess it can sound dreamy to somebody else, can't it? You've been through some hair raising moments, and I'm kind of going to lead up to the row itself. But even just one story that really stood out to me last year that I'd like for you to kind of just say a little bit because I can't remember the details. But was the climbing a mountain? I can't remember which mountain. I feel really bad. But yeah, tell us about that one as well.
Aconcagua or Kilimanjaro. Okay, so probably Aconcagua, because Kilimanjaro was actually quite easy. I was up and down in 5 days, and yeah, I felt a little bit of altitude sickness on the summit day, but actually it was relatively easy. Aconcagua was harder because it's a heck of a lot higher, and the temperature was, it was so cold. The forecast was that it was minus 45 degrees,
Wow.
but with a wind chill, and the wind, it can be really cold, but if there's no wind, it's fine because your body heat just stays in your clothing. Whereas when the wind's piercing, that has a huge effect. So actually it was more like, I think it said with a wind chill, and it went to minus 55. And if you imagine when it's really cold, and you've probably seen the pictures of people with beards and they have all the icicles. Well, I had full face mask, full balaclava, and as you're breathing out, that water vapor just immediately turns into ice. So you end up with a full ice beard.
Wow.
And when you're breathing in, even though it's underneath your balaclava, the ice was forming inside my nostril. It felt quite crispy. But I ended up turning around. I ended up not going all the way to the summit. I was 200 meters in altitude short. I turned around at a place called El Dedo, which is Spanish for the finger, because it's a rock that just kind of sticks out like a finger. Yeah, but I made the decision to turn around because, well, my eyes started to go crispy, which sounds weird. I was wearing goggles, but I could just feel my eyes kind of literally glazing over. And I value my eyesight. I think everybody has a limit. People have things that they don't mind losing. If it had been my little finger, I might have been okay. If I think, oh, I'm going to get frostbite in my finger, and you know what, if it means I can get to the top, it's the sacrifice you make. But my eyesight, no way. I turned around and went straight back down.
And I guess you value your life probably as well, because there's got to be risks at that stage, as there with that coldness. Are there a risk of that at any point with hypothermia?
Well, exactly that. I mean, every step forward you take towards the top where you're cold, you know that you're going to have to take that step back to get back down. So if you walk an extra hour, really, you're putting yourself in 2 hours worth of cold. And yes, the lower down you get oxygen wise, it does help, but at those altitudes, it's not really a factor. You just the cold can be a killer, and it's about making the right decisions at the right times, and not feeling bad about it, and not seeing it as a failure, and just seeing it as it's an adventure, isn't it? It's amazing. It's cool. How cool is that?
Yeah, I love the excitement with it, because all these things that you tell me about, and I'm a bit like, I can't even imagine. But I guess it's that window of opportunity for our minds. It's that mindset, and this is why I was so keen to get you on here, because your mindset must be absolutely top level to even that as an adventure, where some people would just be like, absolutely no chance, but you just go for it, don't you? I mean, have you been watching that Wim Hof series on TV? Have you watched that?
I haven't been watching Wim Hof, but when I was out in the Middle East teaching women how to march in Arabic, which was a little bit mad,
Wow.
There was a lady there who was a Wim Hof practitioner, and she had us all doing just the experience, the breathing beforehand, almost hyperventilating, so that when you got into the ice bath, and we in the Middle East, we managed to find some ice.
Love it.
It was from a supermarket, but anyway.
Oh, right. Not actually in the desert. I was thinking.
Yeah, no, it was we were in a capital city, so I can't exactly say where, but
Yeah.
teaching another nation's women how to march. And we had some really nice accommodation actually, but we put a lot of ice in the bath. And then after the Wim Hof breathing, got in, and weirdly, I was completely fine. They said I was holding my breath for about 3 and a bit minutes, but I really didn't realize because I was so spaced out.
Wow.
And then actually in the water, I, I I just got in. I was like, this is all right. This is fine.
Yeah. Wow. So let's
So
talk
what's
about
the
then.
TV program?
Yeah, well, I was about to say they do things like that. So I've only seen one episode of it actually, but it is pretty much that he's putting them in icy cold situations every week, and they're having the last one I saw was they cut out a hole in the ice and they had ladders going in, and they just had to, like I said, practice all the breathing techniques, the mindset, the resilience, the calmness, and he just kind of talks them through it to go into this ice hole. And some people last a few minutes. I think, oh, who was it? It's Patrick Vieira. Oh, I might have that wrong. He's a footballer, so I guess they have strong mindset. He was in there for like 15 minutes or 20, I can't remember, and they had to. He was going to stay, but it was actually Holly Willoughby who was. She went into full on mum mode, saying, "No, we need to get you out. Get out now," because his body temperature was dropping, but he was determined not to do it. So it's that sort of thing that you're talking about actually, and that's why I thought, I wonder if you've seen that, because it's all mindset, isn't it?
It is. It's mind over matter, and actually realizing you can control your body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I had something very strange happen out on the Atlantic where I was rowing, and I got a pain in my shoulder. And I thought, oh gosh, this is early days to be getting a pain. I've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Um, and then I realized, and I said to myself, well, actually, wait a minute, it still moves. Am
Ah,
I going to be able to complete this given this pain? And I went, well, yeah, of course I can. It's just pain. And I kid you not, after that, I never felt it again.
wow.
It's the weirdest thing. I'm not that kind of person who's like airy fairy, whatever. I never felt it again. And
Wow.
I don't know why. I think it's because I told myself that, well,
Yeah.
you're going to crack on. So there's no point, brain, telling me that it hurts.
Wow. Oh, I love all
Yeah.
this. And like I said, in a way, this, even though it's not nothing to do with business and entrepreneurism, it kind of is, because everything you're saying, it's all that resilience, that mindset that we. There's a book, isn't there? I don't know if you've read it, Glennon Doyle, Untamed. I did a book club on it. Love the book. And her saying is, "We can do hard things." And that always sticks with me. And it's that sort of mindset and resilience that I guess you just had to adopt, didn't you? Whichever situation you've been in, that's
Mm.
interesting. And actually, I did that on a run. Really random. I'll go up from one here, but I did that on a run the other day. I did six miles. I was very proud of myself. It was accidental. It was meant to be 5 miles. So yeah, it's. But in about 2 miles in, my leg was absolutely killing, and I did a similar thing where I just talked myself through it, and actually then didn't feel it again. So I kind of get where you're up to with that. But I mean, let's talk about it. We've got to go on to this now, haven't we? The raw. It's a perfect window to go on to it. Tell us about it, Emma, because it's absolutely. When you told me about this, I was like, this is absolutely crazy. But I guess for you, it probably wasn't that crazy, was it? Or was it?
It really wasn't. It was, from an outsider's perspective, it seems like a really impressive thing to do because there are not many people that would consider rowing across an ocean, never mind doing it solo.
Yeah.
Um, but actually, it's just, you just have to have good drills. You just have to be able to get up and be self motivated and just row and then deal with any situation. So I left from Tenerife at the beginning of February, um, and I had 12 days of amazing rowing. I really enjoyed myself. I had crazy weather. I had relatively calm weather. I saw dolphins. I saw a whale that actually turned around and came straight at me, which was incredible. But I didn't get
Wow.
the camera, which was annoying. Um, I saw storm petrels. I saw ships on the horizon. Um, yeah, it was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed being on my own. People say, didn't you feel lonely? But
Yeah.
actually, no, I didn't. I felt really content.
Wow.
Um, yeah, plenty, and I had music. I
Did
just put
you?
music on. Yeah, I had took my on my phone I had downloaded lots of music, and then I had a little speaker about this big, so it didn't weigh much, but it was loud enough for just me, and yeah, it was good.
Wow. I didn't think that. I mean, because I was in the position where I could go. I got to meet your boat, I guess, Happy Socks, your rowing boat,
Yeah.
and I saw all the sleeping compartments and the be able to cook food, I guess. I mean, yeah, it's crazy that you could have music as well. But I mean, tell us about again that decision to even embark on this mission.
Yeah, well, it's weird because I had never even heard of ocean rowing before. And then one day I saw this thing on Facebook. A friend of mine was going to row the Atlantic, it's a team of four, and he's in the RAF still. And immediately I thought, oh, I wish I'd done something like that when I was in. And then a split second later, I thought, you don't need to be in, just do it. And 3 days later, I bought the boat.
I love it.
So I just decided there and then, this is happening. I don't
Yeah,
care. Yeah, I'm going to do this. And yeah, and so I did.
I love it. And yeah, because even the boat, where was that from? That was from America, was it?
Yeah, so a girl had the previous owner, Leah, she had just done the Pacific. She'd gone from San Francisco to Hawaii,
Yeah.
half of the Pacific, I guess, but that's kind of the route to do. And then she had the boat shipped back to San Francisco. So I then had to get the boat from San Fran home to the UK, import tax, all of that. You think ocean rowing is going to cost you X amount, just add a zero.
Yeah.
There's always extra costs. It's madness. But I
Wow.
did pay for the whole thing myself. Most people who do these expeds, they will raise money for charity, but whatever they raise, the cost of the event will come out. I ended up
Ah,
spending the entire thing I paid for myself,
yeah.
and still managed to raise £92,000 on top of
Wow.
that.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, because I remember your original target was 80,000, wasn't it?
it was. Yeah,
But
but it gathered momentum.
yeah, I
Yeah,
bet it
I
did.
had 80,000 before I set off because that was my aim. I didn't want to be thinking about fundraising while I was rowing.
Yeah.
And then while I was rowing, other people came in, and there was actually like a £2,500 donation, which was madness, just
Wow.
from a member of the public.
Yeah.
And then lots of hundreds and tens, and it all adds up. And it's for the Air Cadets, and I think the Air Cadets is such a great organisation for children.
Yeah.
If you're 13 years old, and maybe you know you want to feel like you belong
Yes.
somewhere, that is the place to go, because you will immediately feel like you're part of the team. You'll learn leadership skills. You'll learn to trust yourself. You'll go flying, you'll go shooting. There's
Wow.
lots of really cool activities that they do.
Yeah.
Duke of Edinburgh Ward, lots of hill walking. But what I realized was, if you join Air Cadets, you get those skills. But what you don't get is that next step on the ladder for a career. So the
Ah,
money that I was raising specifically was going towards their career and their education. Um,
wow.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, so you were quite specific about that, where that money could go.
yeah, yeah.
I
If
love,
somebody, say, wants to go to college,
yeah.
and um, maybe they needed to pay for the train ticket, say, it could go to that. But at the same time, if they wanted to do a qualification that was going to cost them 2 grand, as long as they can justify what they need and why, then it can go to that. Because why not make their life that little bit easier so that they can succeed? And we're from Burnley, and it's not the most affluent of places. I'm really
No.
proud that I'm from Burnley, but
Yeah.
that money will help people who need it the most, and who have that potential.
Oh, I love that. So it's become like so many steps to your mission, I guess. I mean, did it ever feel like a personal mission? I know, I mean, it probably is going to do, but was it always about the air cadets? So was it, yeah, which way did it go more than anything?
It was primarily a personal mission. It was something that I wanted to do. But then I thought, well, if I'm going to do something so big, I might as well help others in the process. And I
Yeah.
was thinking, well, what charity do I go for? And I'm quite into animal cruelty. I think that's quite sad. I think the way we treat animals is horrendous.
Yeah.
Um, but it gets me angry, and I didn't want my experience to be an angry one. So I wanted it to be a positive one.
Yeah.
Hence, I chose the Air Cadets, because I just feel like it's an incredible, there's nothing to be negative about with the Air Cadets. It's an incredible organization.
Yeah.
Whereas with animal cruelty, I'd just get ranty. I'd be messaging
I always say I love a
them
good
either
rant.
farm. Yeah.
But I can just imagine, yeah, the because you obviously had a bit of PR. You had a bit. You were on radio stations. I can just imagine the ranty version. They might be like,
Yeah, yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah. So I mean, let's talk about before we go on to the next adventure. One thing I really wanted to pick up on, and you've kind of touched on it before about the word failure, and I'm going to say it in inverted commas, so everybody on the podcast can't see me doing it. But how do you embrace that I suppose it's reframing it, because I think you've got such a strong mindset, and I think you probably look at it like I do, Emma, that there's no such thing as failing, is there? You can just try, learn from it, move on to your next challenge. But for somebody else, I guess not having that strong mindset might have seen that, especially with the rowing, to have to stop at that point. How did you deal with that?
Have you heard of Simon Weston? He's the burns victim from the Falklands War. He was quite famous. He
Yes.
actually had been following my adventure and I hadn't realized. And
Wow.
he sent me a little video of himself talking to me, saying that do not feel like you have failed. Failure would to have never set off in the first place.
Yeah.
And I love that. I mean, attempting something is, it's almost pioneering, isn't it? It's you might not succeed, but if you don't try at all, then you'll never know if you could have succeeded. And actually, by trying and then not succeeding, I don't want to use the word failing, but
Yeah.
trying and not getting to wherever it is you want to go, you learn so much in the process. I've learned, for example, that if I was to do it again, don't tell mum, but I really want to.
Do you? Oh no.
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't do it on that boat, because I'd want an auto tiller. I'd want as a solo rower, you don't want to be row, 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 and then have to take hand off the oars and then change the rudder because it was hand steering. You want it to be either automatic or maybe even foot steering, so that you can still steer.
Yeah.
So I learned that. I learned so many other things. So it's not failure. It's about giving it a go, pushing
Yeah.
yourself, and learning from it.
Yeah, in a way, it's attempt one. I have this sense from you, Emma, and I kind of knew. I was like, I'm sure you're going to try that again, because it's just attempt one, isn't it? And it's like learn. Let's go on to attempt two, and I don't think
Yeah,
you give up until you've achieved it, will you? Really?
exactly that. Exactly. And initially, when I finished, I was thinking, would I do it again? And I thought, well, what will I gain from it?
Yeah.
What else life experience will I learn? I've already seen dolphins. I've already seen the whales. I've already seen the storm petrels. I've seen big waves coming at
Ooh.
me, and I've seen quite calm weather. I've even been rescued, and I've had that. So what else would it add to my life by having that experience? And actually, that is still a factor. So that's why I'm not in a rush to do it, because
Ah,
I feel like I've had all the experiences that I could and
yeah,
some. And if I was to go again, how would it be how would it be better? How would it add to my life?
I love that.
um well, it would only add to my life because when people go, oh, did you do it in the end and you succeeded? But that's not what motivates me. People saying, oh, you actually completed it this time, I don't care. Actually, I probably learned a lot more and had a more fun time by it not going right.
Ooh, I love that. And this is where it does link to entrepreneurship, because or just anybody in the limelight, when it's like an overnight success, have they actually learned anything? Or the people that take that, try and try again, fail again, back to those inverted commas, don't quite succeed, then try it a different way, and then eventually get there. It's the learnings along the way, isn't it? It's not just, if you'd have just rowed across, no issues, actually calm weather, I mean, that would never happen. But if you'd have just got across and smashed the world record, I guess yeah,
It wouldn't be a story.
yeah,
People would be
exactly.
bored. They'd be like, all right, you did it, cool, that's great, can't be that hard then.
Yeah.
But now everybody wants to know about the rescue and what happened, tell me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the interesting part.
Well, it is. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about this, because we've not really got to this point in the story, have we? And people listening probably thinking, well, what happened? So yeah, let's. I mean, let's start very dramatic, Emma. But let's like the lead up to the rescue, and kind of. I know it was all quite dramatic, really, wasn't it? So yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, so as a solo rower, you don't really sleep for very long. I'd probably been asleep for about half an hour, and I'd wake up and I'd check my instruments and I'd look on the panel and I'd say, okay, am I drifting the right direction? And if I'm not, if I'm drifting backwards, then I have to quickly get out, change my rudder, set it, or even get back on the oars and start rowing again.
Wow.
If everything's fine, I'm going the right way, guess what? I can actually have another half an hour sleep, which is amazing because you do need to sleep at some point
Half an
on a
hour.
50-day challenge. And so I'd do that. However, on the morning of Valentine's Day, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I woke up only to find everything in pitch darkness. My instruments weren't on. And I thought,
Oh.
that's odd. Why is it off? And long story short, what had happened, two wires had come loose from the so the solar panels go into a booster system. The booster system goes into a battery management system, and then that feeds the batteries.
Yeah.
Two of those wires had come loose, and it had basically stopped the circuit. So my batteries hadn't been charging for some time, and they got so low that it then wouldn't hold their charge, because they're lithium ion batteries. The only way to then bring it back up, it's a bit like a car battery, is to put it on the mains and trickle feed. So yeah, I didn't have the mains.
Oh no.
And I know. So I spent the best part of the day and into some of the evening trying to figure out what I could do, whether I could continue. I was only 12 days in. It was probably going to take me about 50 days at the rate I was going, maybe slightly quicker. But yeah, it's just, I realized very quickly that I was going to have to be rescued. I had all the experts involved, Victron Connect was the name of the batteries. And you find out, you get into the manuals, you have to look at every single thing that could possibly, anyway, I managed to refit these two wires, waited hoping that the sun would charge the batteries, and it just didn't happen.
Oh.
That would kind of have been not an issue if I hadn't been solo. Because water maker wise, okay, that runs on battery. I did have a hand pump, and okay, it would have meant that I'd been spending an hour a day pumping water. That's fine. I could have still continued. Navigation wise, I mean, I can navigate naturally. I know I've got a compass, I've got a map. I also had a handheld thing that just had its own batteries. So I had plenty of ways for navigating if I'd had to. But the safety of sleeping in a boat in crazy conditions at night, when ships, even during the day, when ships are going past and they can't see you, that was my biggest concern. And I didn't want to get run over by a ship in the middle of the night.
No.
No, it had almost happened not almost, that's probably disingenuous, over-egging it. On 3 occasions, I had a system called AIS, Automatic Identification System, and that's the thing that I was worried about because it didn't work anymore. It's a screen on my iPad, and it shows me where all the other vessels are in the area that also have AIS. So all ships have to. And I'd go, okay, there's one over there, 200 miles away. It's miles off, it's fine. Or one that's quite close and it's aiming at me. And then I would have to do something about it. If they didn't change direction, then I'd call them. And I had a little radio, little VHF line of sight. So once they were in range, I could just say, hi, this is me. And the systems say the name of their vessel as well. And I'd call them up and say, please, can you change direction? And that had happened 3 times. And if I hadn't made that call, I don't know, they might have hit me. Because I'm so tiny, but I did have AIS, so I don't know why I wasn't showing up on their system. Having spent several days on a ship now, I do know that you generally only have one person on the bridge. I thought it would be manned, like with several people looking at all the instruments, literally driving the ship. But no, one person's just walking around. It's all on autopilot. It knows where it's going. One person monitoring things in general, but even if the AIS had gone off, would they really have seen me?
No, you'd be like a dot in the ocean, I guess.
Exactly that. And I'm so tiny. I'm literally below the waves, up and down, and you go into the base of the wave and nobody can see you. Too small.
Yeah. And I like that. That's similar to the mountain. I can't say the mountain again, but the mountain. Yeah, because that's it. That's the one. I was waiting for you to say it, Emma. I was like, that's the one. And that's similar sort of thing, isn't it? And I think this is where probably people that do lose their life or do lose eyesight and things, I don't know what, that switching mindset of, like, say, knowing what your limit is. Because, and a bit like Joe, it's interesting you're saying about what would be the, I can't say the word, of going to train it again. What would be the point of that? I guess not the point, but why do it?
Yeah.
And it's not being ego led. And I've got a really good sense that you're quite head on your shoulders about that, Emma. You don't let your ego lead, and that's probably where some people go wrong in those experiences, isn't it? If they just want to do it no matter what. But you're quite
I mean, I don't do things I don't think I do things because of ego. I think I'm quite conscious of that. Um, I don't know. I don't know whether I do. I
Yeah.
think I'm self-motivated. I do things because I want to. Um, but at the same time, I also want to inspire people.
Yes.
The number of stories that I've had from kids as far as Australia, I had one girl saying, I'm not really very outdoorsy, but I've been following you with my family. And I said to my dad, I wanted to do a challenge like you are. I didn't know what. And he said, why don't you ride your mountain bike? You've got a bike, go for a 10K ride. And she was like, nope, I'm going to do 100 kilometers.
Wow.
And he was like, okay. And she did 100 kilometers and she sent me the video of her going through the finish line. And I mean, if I can inspire people to do that, that's just the most amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's
Why
so
wouldn't you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that, and I think that's what I got from it. Even from following you and seeing other people, you had a quite the following who were just following your journey, and I got a bit addicted to it because there was a tracker, wasn't there, and we could go onto Facebook and see where this tracker was, and just watching. And even my girls, actually, my three girls, they were
Oh,
right behind you, Emma. Every day they were asking, "Where's Emma? Can we see?" And I would show them
oh
the
wow.
tracker, and they were so impressed. And again, you can even see that in three young girls' eyes. It was like, wow, if again, even just doing that would inspire people. So that's why I don't think it is ego led, because ego led would be you getting straight back on and saying, I have to finish this. But the fact that you're sort of questioning that, but yet inspiring people, and that's why I wanted to get you on, I guess. It's just that, yeah, that must be a pretty good feeling to know that so many
But if there
people.
is anybody that decides they want to row an ocean and they have any questions, please feel free to call me because I mean it's about sharing that information, sharing that knowledge, all the lessons learned. People should work together, and if you can help people, then I'm all for that.
Oh, I love that. What an offer. Yeah, anybody that is listening who is truly inspired, who just wants to randomly goes and buy a boat. And you never know. And yeah, do contact Emma. I just think chatting to you anyway about this experience. I mean, we've not even got on to the next challenge, but we've not really got on to the rescue. So let's actually, I'm going to
Oh
backtrack.
yeah, sorry.
Um, well, this is me. I go off on one, so this is why I call it conversations with Carly, because they go actually, absolutely all over the place. My conversations, but yeah, let's get down to the actual rescue. Let's come back to that. What happened?
Yeah. So I'd had communication with people on shore the whole day. And so I very calmly said, right, it's got to that point now where I've got to make the decision. There's no point me making the call from here because the satellite signal might not be great and it could be intermittent and it all be a bit weird. So I just said to them, will you make that call, a telephone call to the Coast Guard essentially. The yeah, and so they did. It was all very calm. They were well aware of what was happening because they'd kept them updated all day long
Yeah.
as to what the situation was. And then it got to the point where I said, right, okay, now's the time. There were two ships in the area. Uh, One was called the Petrel Arrow, and it was a 210-meter cargo ship. It was massive, carrying 70,000 tons worth of paper.
Wow.
And then there was another one that was a much smaller one. It was a resupply boat, and it had these little boats that you could just drop over the side. It could have buzzed, and somebody could have come and got me. I'd get on their boat and leave Happy Socks to drift out to sea. And I was thinking, well, that seems like the safer option because um, I really didn't want my tiny boat smashing up against the side of a huge ship in the middle of the Atlantic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got disaster written all over it. That's got, hole in the side of my boat. It starts sinking. I'm not on the ship yet. Oh my goodness. In my
Oh,
head,
yeah.
written all over it. But a tiny boat coming to me like a rib,
Yeah.
me getting in and going to the other boat seemed a lot more safe.
Yeah.
As it was, that wasn't to be. And I got the 210-meter cargo ship.
Oh my goodness. What was that like?
Well, thankfully, the crew, which was all Indian, the captain, well, they all spoke amazing English. So I got on the VHF radio and I started talking to him saying, look, I've got two things that I think could go wrong. The first is that I'm on parachute anchor, which is a big bit of material that goes in the sea and it stops you from drifting too quickly with the wind. And it means that he could get to me without me being a moving target. But I said, when you get to me, it extends about 70 meters in front of me. So I don't want to get dragged under by the ship. So I'm going to have to either release it at some point or you go downwind of me. And so we had this big discussion. I said, the second thing is that when I am next to the ship, I've heard a story on another podcast where two guys were rescued. And the first guy managed to get onto the rope ladder, and the second guy, the boat was just drifting further backwards towards the propeller. And if he hadn't jumped at the very last second and seen a rope at the very last second, the boat, as he turned around, his boat, as he turned around, went under the propeller and got smashed up, and he could have been on that. So I didn't want that to happen to me. I didn't want to drift towards the back of the boat.
No.
As it was, we talked about it, he turned the engine off so the prop wasn't going. He drifted towards me. It took him 3 hours, but it was like high precision navigation towards me, you know, like all the maths involved.
I love it.
And then I was about 100 meters from the ship, and he, you know, we were chatting still on the VHF. He said, Emma, now's the time to release your parachute anchor.
Wow.
And I'd made, I don't know why I did it. I think logically, I thought if I have a quick release, I put a carabiner on rather than doing a knot. I put a quick release on there so that just in case I needed to get rid of it, I could. And so I did. I got rid of it. And unfortunately, there's a bit of material now drifting out to sea. So sorry for the pollution, but, you know, I'm ultimately safe at the end of the day. So I released that. I had to row towards the ship. The wind caught the front of my boat and spun it round. And all of a sudden I'm facing the ship backwards. So I had to row backwards.
Wow.
Which was okay because it was still drifting towards me. And the closer I got, the more in the wind shadow of the big ship I was. And then I was probably, say, 10 meters from the edge of the ship. And I just shouted, throw me a rope. And all these Indian men looking down going, who is this crazy person? So I said, throw me a rope. And they threw me the rope. And I kid you not, it was a perfect shot. I grabbed it, tied it onto the boat, and I knew I was going to be okay. I knew I wasn't going to drift towards the back. I knew it could all be very calm. It was actually quite calm the whole time. People say, oh, weren't you terrified? I don't really have time to be terrified. I was just dealing with what I needed to do. Just cracking on.
Cracking on, I love it. And that's kind of your attitude to life, I think, Emma, is just cracking on. I love it because I was thinking then, oh, your heart must have been absolutely racing, but actually it's more like fight or flight, isn't it? That you just do what you need to do in that moment, I guess. It sounds like a Hollywood blockbuster, doesn't it? I wonder if they'll make a film of it.
I'm not sure about that.
You never know. But I mean, how was it? Because the next part when I was following you on Facebook was rescuing Happy Socks. That was the next thing, because I think it was like everyone's like, yes, Emma's safe. It was that collective, that's what I sense I got from everybody that was following you. It was like, thank goodness, Emma's safe. But then the question was, oh, Happy Socks. And that was that a one-off mission there was a one shot? Is that right?
Exactly that. So I think when people rescue you, generally they only rescue the person. It's not really heard of that your vessel would ever be rescued, even if there is a big crane on board. It's never really been a thing. And the reason why I think they did it is because when I got to the top of that rope ladder, I looked every single one of them in the eye and I was genuinely grateful. And I said, thank you to each of them individually. And I think that meant so much to them. I was then whisked off into this room to kind of be checked over, make sure I was okay. They asked me about COVID. They gave me a mask. They were all wearing masks.
Love it.
I was like, I can't possibly have COVID. I've been isolating.
Where would that come from?
Exactly. But I think because of that, they then went to the captain and said, can we rescue her boat as well? Let's give it a go. And convinced him. And that's exactly what happened. And the captain spoke to the company. The company said, look, don't put anyone in danger. Give it one attempt. You're welcome to do that. And so they made that, that they did a little risk assessment, see what the issues might be. We figured out how to attach a rope to it to then lift it. And that's exactly what they did. And they lifted it. I mean, it kind of was swinging in the wind a bit because it's quite windy. And the side did hit the ship and it's carbon fiber. So I need to get that repaired. I've still not done it. But eventually Happy Socks lives to row another day. And when they had it on board, on deck, I mean, they were so excited. They were shouting and whooping and cheering. Like, yeah, this is amazing. And then they all wanted a photo and it was pitch black. And it was such an amazing team effort. They, yeah, they were awesome. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
they'd spent 10 months on ship
yeah.
without being able to go on land because of the company policy. So I was probably a bit of entertainment for them.
I bet it was. I bet that's probably what it was. Yeah, you were just somebody new and a bit of an adventure for them. And I guess there's two things there that I'm thinking. It is like teamwork and team effort, and just like you said, because you said thank you and actually genuinely meant it. It just goes a long way, doesn't it? It doesn't. They always say, don't they? It doesn't cost anything to have manners, but actually, that shows that there's more to it than that. You got happy
Yeah.
socks.
In fact, I'd say there were a lot of things when you're raising money. I find that just giving is great, but you really don't raise that much because it's the odd person giving you £10. When you're trying to raise £80,000, you almost need to take a different angle. And what I found was the people that sponsored me, the big money, was because I'd made those relationships and I'd been me, I'd been genuine, I'd just been friendly.
Yeah,
And I think if you go through life thinking, well, if I'm friendly to everyone,
yeah.
then it can't hurt. And actually, on this occasion, people that I'd met and worked with who had then gone on to bigger things then remembered that actually, you know, she's all right.
Yeah, and there's another saying, isn't there? It's almost like this is probably more like for famous people, but it's like anybody in life, isn't it? That it's not. It's just remembering on the way up. I can't remember what it is. It's about how you treat people on the way up, isn't it? And
Yeah,
that's kind of with yours because you were quite high up in the RAF, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did quite well. I got promoted to squadron leader quite quickly, but I was selected to be the chief of the air staff's personal staff officer.
That's it.
And that comes with certain privileges in that you see a lot, you hear a lot. Don't get me wrong, it's crazy busy. I was doing 90 hours a week for 18 months, and yeah, it was mad. But people then you're mixing in certain circles where you're trusted, and yeah, it was a very privileged position to be. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? There's another story I'm going to. You probably know which one it is. It'll be to do with eyesight again. Actually, you have a bit of a running theme, Emma. Your eyes, but it does again. It links to entrepreneurship because I'm always talking about burnout. It's a big thing, and it's that thing. Is it's how much we put into what extent. And I'm always talking about sort of a life work balance how you show up. I mean, tell us about that because you work in those 90 hours, and I'm assuming that's when this happened. Your eyes. Tell
Yes,
tell us.
I know. So when people talk about stress and burnout, I always think, well, I'm quite a robust person. I've been through some stuff in my life and I've always been okay. And yeah, I thought, well, I'm quite robust. However, on this one occasion, I must have been so stressed. And as much as emotionally I didn't feel it, my body told me to stop. And what happened was it was about 7 o'clock in the morning. I had a letter that I needed to get into the chief of the air staff. He had a meeting and I was proofreading. And of course, I was going left and right, just proofreading because this thing needed to be printed off and signed and in front of him very soon. So I was doing that. And all of a sudden, I realized I couldn't see. It was like looking through a kaleidoscope, but just the central bit I could see maybe a few millimeters that was in focus, and the rest was just like a kaleidoscope around the outside
Wow.
of my vision. And I just thought, oh, this isn't good. And I thought, it's okay. Maybe I'm just took a few breaths and had a glass of water. I say that I had some water next to me. And then I turned around to the corporal and I said, look, let's get this letter in. And then I need you to take me to the doctors because I can't see. And he
Wow.
said, what do you mean you can't see?
Yeah.
I said, well, I know it looks like I'm looking at you right now, but I can only see a pinpoint in the middle. When I went to the doctors, he said, right, this is an ophthalmic migraine. People who are really, really stressed get this. Have you ever had one before? No, I don't get stressed. And he said, well, it's your body's way of telling you to slow down. How many hours a week have you done? How many hours have you done this week? And that's when I sat down and thought about it. That's why I always say 90, because on that particular week, I was like, probably about 90 hours. And he was like, and I said, that's a normal average week, not even a bad week. And he was like, what?
He said it's not.
He said, you need to go back to your room. He said, your vision, in fact, my vision came back while I was in there. It was a short-term thing. He said, but you're going to feel really ill. And I went back to my room and I was not well both ways. And I just thought, oh, this isn't good. And I felt really bad. But I got into bed and I got on my laptop and I carried on working because that's what the job needed. And yeah, I had
Wow.
to, because when you're getting 120 emails every single day and they all count because you are the front face of the Air Force and you don't want to let them down,
Yeah.
you do whatever it takes. There were two people before me in that job and both of them didn't succeed. Let's just put it that way.
Did they
In
make it? I
very
was just
quick
thinking.
succession. They'd been in not very long, literally I think a month each, and then they needed somebody else who was more robust.
Yeah.
And that turned out it was me. And yet it still, I don't want to say broke me. It made me see the world in a different way, to the point where I went, you know what? I'm not going to be in the Air Force anymore. I'm going to go and have some adventures. I'm going to go and live my life. I'm not going to work 90 hours a week. Why would I? You get one life. That's what I believe. So I just made that decision there and then and went, okay, this has to change.
I love that. I love that. That's what I was waiting for that to build up to, actually, because I was thinking, am I right remembering that this was actually the moment, wasn't it, that you actually just left the role? I mean, how powerful is that? Because so many people right now are either, whether it's a business or career, and they just work to the bone until it can literally almost finish them off. And I guess in that sense, that was probably your moment of feeling like that. But at least it only took, only one. It shouldn't take one, but it that was the one. I won't say eye opener. That's probably the wrong term to use, Emma. But it was, wasn't it?
It's a wake up call. It really is. Because, you go through your life thinking, oh, I'm really robust and I know myself. And then your body tells you, wait a minute, you're not. You are not infallible. And it did it. It was the only way that I
Yeah,
would have listened is, if I'd felt ill, I'd have still been in work.
yeah.
If I'd been sick or whatever, I'd have still gone into work. If I'd had a headache, I'd have still got into work. Pain you can get over. But when you lose your eyesight, that is weird. I've got perfect vision and it was, yeah, I value my eyesight. We keep going back to eyesight,
We
but
do. There's something in this. I think you've got to. It's literally, maybe it means you've got big vision, and you just, like say, you value it. You definitely do value it. But I mean, let's talk about the next adventure, because that was, I suppose, that was the moment where you did. I mean, when was that? Was that a couple of years ago? Are we talking a few years ago? When was that moment when you left?
working for the chief of the air staff.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the Air Force it was their 100th anniversary in 2018. So I was in the job for 2017 and 2018. So not only is it normally a busy job, but I then had all of that to sort
Oh,
on top of it, which is why it was crazy.
yeah.
Um, but I actually left a little bit later because in the Air Force they give you time they call it resettle. You get time to do like some qualifications, prepare you for Civvy Street, and I moved into another job, which was lovely. I mean, it was OC Force Development Squadron, which basically means I was in charge of the gym, the learning centre, and the RAF regiment, so all the shooting and that kind of training that you do across the station. And that was great because it was just a management job in my element, easy, and really interesting. But it didn't make me want to stay in the Air Force.
Ah,
I'd already had my eyes opened.
yeah. Literally.
Yeah, yeah. So
Exactly.
I actually left in 2019. Did I?
Right.
2019? Gosh, time flies. Yeah,
It does.
end of
That's like,
2019.
yeah, 3 years ago. But I guess we've had a whole pandemic in between. Everything just blurs into one, doesn't it?
True.
Yeah, so that's it, isn't it? So you've come out of there. You've the next pandemic probably did change things a little bit. Then you've had your big mission. Let's tell us about this next one, because this is what I'm really excited to hear about, because I've not actually heard much about this. I've seen that it's something to do with the outskirts of Britain, but yeah, you tell me again.
Yeah. So it's called the GB Row Challenge, and there's a team of 5 of us. We're rowing around Great Britain. We start on the 12th of June from Tower Bridge in London, and we go out of the Thames and around clockwise around the UK, the mainland.
Yes.
So, for example, we're not going around Ireland, where we can choose to go under the Skye Bridge or through the Minch. We don't have to go around the Outer Hebrides. So yeah, so that's basically the route. There are 3 boats in total entering, all teams of 5,
Yeah.
and our crew is really, really cool. I mean, normally I do solo expeditions, but
Yes.
this team is amazing. We've got Sophie, who's a below the knee amputee, so she'll be the first ever person, male or female, amputee to go around. from Great Britain. Nobody's done it before, so we need to get round. We need to finish this.
Yeah.
She's also big into her rowing as well. She was doing training for Paralympics, and she's just incredible. Then there's Lamin Dean, Sergeant in the Army. He is GB bobsleigh Olympian.
Ha,
He
love
did
it.
2 Olympics, and so I know him because I used to do skeleton bobsleigh,
Did
and I
you?
met him. Yeah, head first. Well, I started off doing bobsleigh as the driver for the Air Force. Then my brake woman didn't get in, so I thought, well, this whole 2-person team thing's not working for me. So then I swapped to skeleton bobsleigh, head first on a tea tray, won for 5 years on the trot, represented Great Britain, and ended up obviously meeting Dino along the way. And coincidentally, a few months ago, I met him at a Bremont Watchers kind of event,
Yeah.
and he's sponsored by them. And he was telling me how he's going to row around Great Britain. I'm like, that's amazing. Well done. If there's anything I can do to help,
Yeah.
like, because I've just literally got back, if there's any knowledge or points of contact, let me know. So he did. He messaged me a few times, and what's an EPIRB and what's a PLB and how does this work? And that's great because I really enjoy sharing knowledge.
Yeah.
And then he said, oh, will you talk to our captain? Yeah, okay. But I knew that the captain had, he's already rowed across the Atlantic. So what more can I teach him other than how to get rescued at sea?
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'm happy to talk to him, or even if he just needs points of contact. Yeah. And the next thing I know, he actually asked me to join the team, which was just amazing.
Wow.
So that's Dino.
Yeah.
And he's solid. He's like the powerhouse. Then we've got Chris, who is the captain who I was just telling you about. He's walked around the UK coastline, which equates to 450 back-to-back marathons. Yeah, he's a real adventurer, and he's also done the Atlantic. And then we've got Jason, who pretty much just does everything. Ironman, Marathon des Sables, all the different triathlons there are, and also has rowed across the Atlantic and around Great Britain. So we've got so much experience. Jason did it as a pair, but they got the world record in the process. So
wow.
Lots and lots of experience.
No pressure then.
And then there's me who got rescued.
Yeah, but that well, I hope it won't come in handy, but that experience and probably the mindset again. If things get a little bit tricky, I guess you'll be the one in a way. I don't mind you. It sounds like you've got a powerhouse of mindset in there that will just go for it. But I mean, how long should it take? I'm trying to get my head around how far that is and how many days it will take.
Yeah, I think it's around 2,000 miles. But we hope it'll take 30 days, but we're taking enough food for 40. So let's say 30 to 40 days later, and we'll end up back at Tower Bridge. But it's really cool. It's called a race with a purpose. We've had all 3 boats have had the rudders kind of changed and fitted with sensors, and a section of the boat has sensors on as well, so that we can collect data on microplastics, sound pollution, temperature, salinity, and also eDNA, which I've not really heard of before, but all it means is that if there's a shark nearby and we don't see it, the DNA will still be picked up. So we can see what kind of creatures are living in that water.
Oh, wow. So it's a little bit of an adventure in that sense as well. You get back and have all this data to look at.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll be the 3 different boats as well. So they're all collecting the data.
Oh, it sounds amazing.
It is
Another
mad. It's
challenge.
University of Portsmouth that are coordinating it. But we're also raising money for charity, the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity. So yeah, hopefully we'll raise some money for that along the way as well.
I'll pop the link in for that. If anybody's watching in the future, and there might not be a link if the fundraising's ended, but any links like that, I'll just update them and put them in. So maybe your next adventure, we'll put the next link in there and we'll just keep it going, because I can't see you ending anytime soon. Wow. Oh, I can't wait to watch it. There will be a tracker on that again? Something we can all...
Yes, there will. Yeah. So you can either go onto the Marine Traffic app, which you can download for free, and then type in the name of any vessel. And our vessel is called GB Row Challenger.
Yeah.
There's GB Row Intrepid and GB Row something else. I only care about ours.
Yeah,
GB Row Challenger.
We won't follow them.
Yeah, exactly. Um, or you can, yeah, so you can see us on there, or you can go on the yellow brick tracker, or onto the GB Row website,
Yeah.
GB Row Challenge website.
Wow.
So yeah, you can track us in many different ways.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to track again actually because it was when that sort of came to an end as such. It was kind of like even the girls were like, "Oh, we again, let's track where Emma is." It was like, "No, she's not there anymore." So to have this again, I'm quite excited, and I just can't wait to see how you get on with it. And plus, it's quite a big mission, isn't it? It's easy to kind of put it get next to the solo row, in the Atlantic, and think actually it's a smaller challenge, but it's huge, isn't it?
I'd say it's bigger. It's a heck of a lot bigger because there's
Is it?
things to hit. I mean, there are rocky cliffs and islands to miss, and the weather on the Atlantic is generally in the same direction. Whereas, well, we all know the craziness of UK weather. You know, it can be so unpredictable and it can change like
Yeah.
so quickly. The forecast can be one thing, and reality is very different.
Yeah.
So it makes it much more of a navigational nightmare to get around Great Britain. There's things to hit, there's lots more vessels, it's a lot busier area. And also, you've got tidal gates, you've got areas where if you hit the tide wrong, you can be rowing and actually being pushed back,
Oh.
even if the wind's in the same direction. Yeah, there's so many issues with the tides. So it will be technically a lot more difficult.
But
Yeah.
at least you've got a team there. I guess that's the nice. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it will be good. I suppose you quite like me. You like your own company, don't you? So that'll be another thing to navigate on its own. But it'll be great, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Are
Thank
there
you.
any last minute? We'll sort of start to wrap it up because I think that feels like a good place. But any tips for whether it is entrepreneurship or mindset or just anybody who wants a big challenge in life? Any
I'd
last
say,
minute tips?
yeah, I think we kind of touched on it earlier. I'd say don't be afraid of not succeeding. It's not don't be afraid of failure because that's not a thing.
Yeah,
Don't be afraid of not succeeding because you will learn along the way. Um, if you want to start your own business, why not? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you give it a go? You know, because if you didn't, in 5 years' time, you're going to look back and go, oh, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? Or you might eventually get the courage to do it in 5 years' time and go, I wish I'd done this earlier. Well, let's not have any regrets. Let's just crack on and do it.
yeah. Let's crack on. That is going to be my little motto. I think it's your motto on the back of this, Emma, is just crack on. Just get on with it. Whether it is your own business, whether it's stepping up in that next level in your business, whether it is rowing across the Atlantic. People might be inspired by this. You don't know. But yeah, thank you so much. It's been such a brilliant chat. I knew it would be. I was desperate to get you on, and I might have to. We'll have to reconnect after the next challenge. Maybe there might be a whole
Definitely.
different set of learnings to share.
Definitely. I'd love that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, have a brilliant day, and I will chat to you very soon. But thanks so much, Emma. That's been brilliant.
Cool. Thanks for having me on.